StraighTAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is what? That's the go-get energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go make things happen instead of wait for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today we're going to discuss what mental toughness is really about. You thought you knew what it was about, you don't. Today I'm going to tell you what it's really about. But before we do that, let me tell everybody, I have a daily motivation text. It's a text message that I send out free of charge every single day to have you focus, sharp, and on point to start your day. It goes to everybody in my text community. All you got to do to receive this text is text me right now at the number that I'll be texting you from, which is 305-384-6894. Every day when that daily motivation text goes out, anyone who's in my text community, everyone who's in my text community will be receiving that message. And you can even respond to those messages because I do read them. And you might even get a response back from me because I do take a look at those messages every day and respond to a few people. So text me at that number. It's linked down below in the description of this episode, so you have it. Just send me a quick text from your phone and you'll get text from me every morning with the daily motivation, same way you get a text from anybody else. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is the only place where you can be coached by me directly. That's the only place you can get direct help from me. That's the only place where you can share what you have going on, what you're working on, get my direct feedback and help on what you are doing, what you're going to do next, and how you can do it better, faster, stronger, more efficiently, and produce more results from it. All of that happens at Work on Your Game University. Just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That is the only place where you can take the next step in your work on your game journey is inside the university. So with that said, let's get into the topic. What mental toughness is really about. Now, I have talked about mental toughness in multiple episodes in the history of this show. Let me give you a few of them. Episode 2007, we talked about mental health versus mental toughness. Are they diametrically opposed? Excuse me. Episode 1306, how to develop and maintain mental toughness. And then episode 941, we also talked about developing mental toughness. Now, mental toughness is one of the four pillars of the Work on Your Game philosophy. You just heard me mention it in the introduction to the show. And that's why I have several episodes where I'll talk about it. And there will be several more in the future. Today, it's going to be another one. We're going to talk about what it really is about, because I believe that some people have some, what do we want to call this? Some false ideas and some false beliefs about what mental toughness is really about. So let me explain this today in a way that will help all of you understand how you really can use mental toughness as opposed to maybe how you think you have to use it. Point number one. Topic, once again, is what mental toughness is really about. Number one, mental toughness is understanding, knowing, if you will, that there will always be something that comes up in life. As we just talked in episode 2174, there are no perfect outcomes in life, only trade-offs. There will always be something that comes up. Mental toughness is about knowing that there will be something and you will be able to handle it no matter what it is. That's what mental toughness is. That knowing what's happening, knowing that something is going to happen rather, means it's not about you always being anxious, teeth clenched, fist balled, stressing yourself out about what might happen or what is happening in your life. That is not mental toughness. That's distress. You don't want distress. You're better off with Eustress, which is a good kind of stress. Some of you may have never even heard of that. Talked about that in episode 1348, Eustress, E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S. That's the good kind of stress, the kind of stress you create on purpose. But you don't want distress. That's the kind that that ages you, makes you feel older than you actually are and look older than you actually are because you have too much distress. You don't want that kind of stress. And that is not what mental toughness is about. Mental toughness is actually the opposite of that. It's a state of calm, stoic-like Zen energy that you have when you know that no matter what happens, you will be fine because you will figure out a way to handle it. That's mental toughness. People who are truly mentally tough do not allow themselves to get distressed over life's situations. The most mentally tough people are usually the most calm people in the moments in which everybody else is losing their minds and don't really know what to do. The most mentally tough people are usually the most calm people in the moments in which everybody else is losing their minds and don't really know what to do. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is what mental toughness is really about. Mentally tough people recognize and appreciate their emotions. However, they are never controlled nor driven by their emotions. You recognize and appreciate the emotions that you have. So you're not trying to bury them, but you do not allow your emotions to control you. What mentally tough people do instead is they channel the energy of their emotions into whatever activities or outcomes they want to use those emotions and energies for. I have a video on YouTube where I talk about this, transmuting the energy of emotions into something that we want. I'll tell you the title of that video in a second as I pull it up. In short, what you want to do is extract the energy from any emotion, whether it is frustration. That the title of that video is transmute your emotions into, what is this title? Transmute your emotions into productivity. So you can find that video again, just look it up on YouTube just look my name up, just Dre Baldwin, or just type in that title, you'll see that video. But in short, what you want to do is extract the energy from any emotion. Okay, so every emotion has energy in it. It could be frustration, envy, anger, sadness, embarrassment, disappointment, happiness, joy, whatever emotion you feel. Extract the energy from that emotion and then use that energy for anything that you want to achieve. So in other words, you're going to extract the energy out and then you're going to direct that energy where you want it to go instead of where the emotion wants it to go. Everybody follow me here? You see, when you allow emotions to take control of things, the emotion tells you where to go. You never want your emotions telling you where to go because they will run you into a wall eventually. It may not always run you into a wall, but eventually if you let emotions control the wheel, eventually you're going to run you off the road. And you don't want to end up off the road. You don't want to end up in a ditch somewhere. What you want to do is recognize that the emotion is there, recognize that there's energy there, and that energy is very valuable. All right, energy is 85% of the job in life, folks. So it's good to have energy. Energy is a good thing. What you want to do is pull the energy out of the emotion, then use your logical, rational thinking brain to decide where you're going to direct that energy and then direct it where you want it to go. That's what you do with emotions. This is what mental toughness is about. So every time you feel an emotion, don't feel bad that there's an emotion maybe triggering you or causing a reaction in you. That's okay. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that you are a human being capable of emotion. All human beings have emotions. All right, some are more in touch with theirs than others, but we all have them. Use that emotion in the way that you want to use it, not the way that it wants to use you. So if you're playing a tennis match, for example, you might get angry that there's a fan heckling you from the stands, but you don't channel the energy of that anger to go and beat up the fan in the middle of the tennis match. You probably shouldn't do that. What you want to do instead is use the energy from that anger to beat your opponent, which will in turn shut up the heckling fan. Because if the heckling fan was cheering against you and then you start actually playing better, then the heckling fan probably gets quiet because their heckling is not working, or is not getting the response that they probably expected. So if you're, another example, if you're embarrassed about getting fired from a job, for example, you don't go home and cry about the fact you got fired from the job. You extract the energy from that embarrassment. You go start your own business and you go make more money in your business than the job could ever have paid you. That's the way that you get revenge, so to speak, on the fact that that job fired you, even though the job might not even know that you did it, but you know that that happened. So as an athlete, for example, I was a person who I enjoyed engaging in trash talk. I didn't mind if the opponent talked trash to me, if the opposing coach talked trash to me, if somebody in the stands was talking trash to me, because I would do exactly what I'm telling you here. I would take the energy of whatever that person was saying and I would say something back to them. And that energy, the more energy we exchanged, the more energy I had. And then I channeled that energy into upping my performance on the court, which made the whole game more entertaining. It made it more fun for me because I was playing even better. It made it fun for the fans who were observing this because it became more entertaining because now everybody's ego is involved because of the trash talk. And then I played better and I was a pretty good player. So the better I played, the more entertaining of a show it was for all the observers at the game. So this is a win-win-win situation. That's how I would channel that energy. Now, I'm not saying you have to necessarily do it in that way, but I'm just giving you an example of the way that I would use it. There's a guy named Lee Iacocca. Some of you who are familiar with the business world, especially the automotive business world, are familiar with Mr. Iacocca. He used to work for the Ford company, Ford Motor Company. he got fired from the Ford Motor Company, kind of unceremoniously. He was kind of upset with the way that he was ousted from the company. Now, shortly after he was fired, he was offered the role of taking over. He was an executive at Ford Motor Company. Now, shortly after he was fired, in a kind of dishonorable discharge type of way, let's say, he was offered the position of heading up a company called Chrysler. And Chrysler was basically a dog on its last legs. It was about to be a dead dog. The company wasn't doing too well. It was about to fall apart and be completely nothing. And Mr. Iacocca got offered the role of heading up this company. And he was considering taking it. And his wife, according to stories, depending on who you ask, said, hey, if you go take this job at Chrysler and fail, I'm sure the people at Ford who fired you, they'd be really happy to see you fail trying to take over Chrysler. And Mr. Iacocca used the energy of that thought, whether it was real or not. He used the energy of that thought, which was probably some disappointment, probably some sadness, some anger, some embarrassment, some frustration, all of those things, maybe even a little bit of fear. He took all of that energy, he took all those emotions rather, extracted the energy from those emotions and channeled it into turning Chrysler into a successful company, at least at that time. He bought that company back from its last legs into being a successful company. What did he do? All he did was take the energy of the emotions and channel it into productive behavior. Was exactly what mentally tough people do. Was exactly what you are going to be doing moving forward. So you have an opponent going against you who is doing things that you don't like or going against you in some way. You don't have to lash out at that person, even though your emotions will be telling you to do so. This is why we have to control our emotions. That's why we're in the emotional management business. We talked about this in, let me give you the episode where we talked about that. It's episode number 560. You're in the emotional management business. You must manage your emotions. Don't shut them down. Don't try to cover them up as if they don't exist. Just manage them. Don't allow your emotions to tell you what to do, because that usually leads to you lashing out or doing or saying something that you probably shouldn't do or say, even though it will feel good in a moment when you do or say it. Channel that energy into something that actually gets you where you want to go, which is usually not punching somebody in the face. Is usually not where you want to go. I mean, it might feel good, but is that really where you want to go in the long run of your life? Probably not. Cussing somebody out will feel good, but is it getting you where you want to go in the long run of your life? Probably not. So learn to manage those emotions and channel that anger where you want it to go. Extract the energy and then move forward. So if you're embarrassed about something, don't go home and cry about it. Maybe you will cry because that's how you feel in the moment. But again, channel the energy from that situation and use that energy to go do something that in the long run, you can look back and say, I'm glad I felt that emotion because I took the energy from it and it helped me do what I needed to do. Remembering, folks, the energy is 85% of the job in life. So the more energy you can grab, you can extract, you can pull from anywhere in life, get it. All right. And remember, the energy is neither created nor destroyed. It is merely passed from one object to another. So you don't create energy, you get energy. Energy is transferred. So your job is to find where energy is and pull some energy out of that space and keep it for yourself, and then go use it for something that you can actually go and make happen, that you want to make happen. We talked about this in episode 427, high energy, creating it and what to do with it. And we talked about energy in so many episodes of the show, I can't even tell you all of them. Most recently in episode 2490, how to channel negative emotions into positive energy and action, which is literally what we're just talking about here in this in this second point. So mentally tough people have this ability to always channel whatever emotion into an extraction device, which is your mental toughness and your internal tools, to pull the energy out, leave the emotions where they are, and go direct that energy where you want it to go. Again, you put the energy in the passenger seat, you're in the driver's seat. Everybody follow me here? This is what it means to transmute energy. You take the feeling from one space and move it over to another space at your choosing, a space of your choosing rather. Take the energy from one thing and apply it to something different that you have chosen with your logical thinking. So transmutation requires you to think logically about what you are doing instead of allowing the emotions to tell you what to do. Never allow your emotions to tell you what to do. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is what mental toughness is really about. Number 3. Mentally tough people have an uncanny ability to focus, especially in the midst of challenging situations. An uncanny ability to focus, especially in the midst of challenging situations. There's a word to describe what I just said. It's called equanimity. Definition of equanimity is mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, especially in a difficult situation, which is basically what I just said. That's what mental toughness is about. Mental toughness is about equanimity. Because of this calmness, mentally tough people can control a situation instead of allowing the situation to control them. Even though no human being has more than 1% control directly over anything that happens in our lives, when you develop and ingrain this skill of equanimity, you gain a high amount of influence over circumstances, even though you don't fully control the circumstance. So to influence, it means you can kind of steer a circumstance, but you don't have full control. It's not like you're controlling puppet strings, but it feels like you are. All right, you can feel like you're doing exactly that because of your level of influence. So it can seem like when you see a mentally tough person in action, or if you are a mentally tough person when you're in action, it can seem like that person is controlling everything, when what they're really doing is simply exerting influence over the situation because of their mental calmness. That mental calmness allows them to influence the situation at a level that is disproportionate to their actual control over the situation, and disproportionate to what everybody else around who is observing this has control over, simply because they're the calmest person. There's an entrepreneur named Alex Sharfin. I heard he would always say this. I was in his business coaching program. He said, the calmest person in the room is the leader. Any situation, the calmest person in the room is the leader. So you want to be this person who has this mental calmness. And if you ingrain and internalize these points that I'm sharing here today, you will be the calmest person in the room, damn near every room you go into. Only person who can compete with you for being the calmest person in the room is going to be anybody you know who also listens to Work on Your Game Masterclass. But if you're the only one, you'll be the calmest person in the room. And as the calmest person in the room, when everything's going haywire and everybody is running around like chickens with their heads cut off and panicking and freaking out, not knowing what to do, you'll be the leader. Why? Because you're calm while everybody else is frantic and worried and anxious and fearful. Everybody understand? So you're utilizing the law of contrast. That's what we call this. You gain a high amount of influence over circumstances, even though you don't directly control them. So it seems like you're controlling stuff when all you're doing is exerting influence because of your calmness. The better you develop this trait, the more influence you will have over circumstances, which will, again, it will look and feel like control when really what it is influence, which they can be synonymous in different ways, but they're not exactly the same. That 1% of control that you have over circumstances doesn't actually change when you become extremely mentally calm. You still only have 1% of control. You only control 1% of circumstances. It's just that you have taken full control over that 1%, which many people never do. Even though it's only 1%, many people don't even control that 1%. So because you've taken full control over your 1%, it will feel like you control more than you actually do. Your control is still only 1%, but it feels like you're controlling 40% or 70% or 80% of a situation, even though you really don't, simply because everybody is bending to your will and following your lead. So whatever influence you have, whatever you want, whatever you say, whatever you do, people are willing to follow it. So it feels like control when it's really just influence. And the reason you have this control/influence is because you are so calm while everybody else is losing their minds. And when people lose their minds, what state are they in? They're in a state of being emotional. When people are losing their minds and freaking out and not knowing what to do and being worried and anxious and fearful, what are they? They are highly emotional. And when you are highly emotional, you lose control of your logical, rational centers. The logical, rational centers of your brain basically shut down, they shut off. So if you're the only one who has control of the logical, rational centers of your brain while everybody else is emotional and losing theirs, guess what? You can control and direct and influence everybody else in the room because they don't have control of their logic and you do. The law of contrast, folks. Use it. With all that said, let's recap today's class, which is what mental toughness is really about. It's one of the 4 pillars of the Work on Your Game philosophy. I have several episodes which I talk about it. There will be more in the future. Today is one of them. Number 1, mental toughness is about knowing there will always be something that comes up and knowing that you'll be able to handle it no matter what it is. So mental toughness is not about walking around high on point and anxious and stressed out with your fist balled up, always ready for something crazy to jump out of the bushes at you. No. Mental toughness is a stoic-like, zen-like energy where you know that no matter what happens, you'll be able to deal with it. That's mental toughness. Number 2, mentally tough people recognize and appreciate emotions but are never controlled or driven by emotions. They instead channel the energy of their emotions into whatever activities or outcomes they want and then use those emotions and energies for whatever they decide to do it. Again, see my video on YouTube that is titled Transmute Your Emotions into Productivity. And number 3, mentally tough people have an uncanny ability to focus, especially in the midst of challenging situations. This is called equanimity, which is mental calmness, composure, and evenness of temper, especially in a difficult situation. Because of this calmness, mentally tough people can control a situation instead of the situation controlling them, or at least it feels like they're controlling it, when all they're really doing is utilizing their 1% of control that all humans have, and the rest of it, the other 99%, they are using their ability to influence a situation and influence other people who are being emotional, unable to control things, or unable to take control of their logical, rational brain centers. And because you are calm, you are the leader. The calmest person in the room is always the leader. It doesn't matter what status you have or what role you hold. When you're the calmest person in the room, you are the leader, because everybody else is emotional and unable to think clearly. When you are calm, you can think clearly, and you can influence, strongly influence other people who are unable to do so in the same moment. With all that said, text me. Let me know you want to get the daily motivation. Also, let me know the best insight you got from today's masterclass. My number is 305-384-6894. And workonyourgameuniversity.com. That is where you take your next step. Now, everybody listening to this, here's your next step. Workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you get coached by me. That's where you work with me directly. That's where you get access to all of my courses on mindset, strategy for business and personal life, systems for your business and personal life, and accountability and execution directly from me. And Bulletproof Mindset 2.0. This is one place where you will definitely learn what mental toughness is about and how to apply it in your life. All of that happens. It all goes down at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all